I'm Catherine Hadro. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, change of plan. President Joe Biden issues a sweeping pardon for his son Hunter after repeatedly saying he would not do so. We're at the White House. Tension in the Middle East. The focus turns to bloodshed in Syria amid an uprising by Islamic rebels and fears over the Christian population. The fight for life. UK lawmakers give initial approval to a bill allowing assisted suicide for the terminally ill, bringing it one step closer to passing. Plus, staying hopeful. Pope Francis has some advice for those seeking calm amid the chaos of this world. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. I'm Catherine Hadro in for Tracy Sabol. Our top story tonight. President Joe Biden draws intense scrutiny for pardoning his son Hunter. The president's controversial move spares the younger Biden a possible prison sentence for federal felony gun and tax convictions. It also reverses the president's past promises when he assured Americans he would not use the power of the presidency to pardon his son. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
That's right, Catherine. Good evening to you. President Biden had previously said he would not pardon his son or commute his sentence after Hunter's convictions in Delaware and California. But then, this past weekend, that all changed.
President Joe Biden avoids questions while traveling to Africa to showcase a U.S.-backed railway project in 3 countries, including Angola. But on Air Force One, during the in-flight press conference, it was all about the presidential pardon.
He came to this decision this weekend, so let's be very clear about that. He says it himself, it's in his voice. He said he came to this decision this weekend, and he said he wrestled with this.
And while Karine Jean-Pierre said her boss believes in the justice system,
but he also believes that the war politics infected the process and led to a miscarriage of justice. This is his words. I'm just repeating what the president said.
Last night, Biden issued a statement writing in part, "No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong." The move comes weeks before Hunter Biden was set to receive his punishment, and less than 2 months before President-elect Donald Trump is set to return to the White House. Trump posted on Truth Social, "Does the pardon given by Joe to Hunter include the J6 hostages who have now been imprisoned for years? Such an abuse and miscarriage of justice." Among lawmakers, no shortage of reaction.
I can sympathize with his perspective that his son was, subject to vigilante justice. I certainly witnessed that in Republican depositions of Hunter Biden and his attorney. But having said that, what other father in America has the power to pardon his son or daughter if they're convicted of a crime?
Even though I don't think Hunter Biden would have been prosecuted under most circumstances, a pardon at this point will be used against, I think, Democrats when we're pushing to defend the Department of Justice against politicizing it.
Republican Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton tweeting, "Joe Biden has boasted about his word as a Biden for decades. Now we know his word as a Biden is trash."
Now, Biden is not the first president to pardon a family member or a friend. His pardon covers not just the gun and tax offenses against his son, but anything else Hunter might have done going back to the beginning of 2014. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you, Owen. Joining us now is Michael Gerhard, a professor of jurisprudence at the University of North Carolina. Thank you so much for joining us. President Biden famously said he would not pardon his son, Hunter. So why do you think the change, and was it due to the election results?
It's a good question. I can't be confident of the answer because I can't obviously get inside the president's head. But it may well be that as he makes his exit from the presidency, he perhaps cares a little bit less about what brought him there and wants to sort of push back against the Republican assault, which has lasted all 4 years against President Biden and his son. And a pardon may have been what he thinks is the best way to do that.
The time frame for the pardon is quite extensive. It spans from January 1st, 2014 to December 1st, 2024. Why do you think it is so broad, and why start in 2014?
That's a good question. I think it may go back to 2014 in part because that was a period of time that became the focus of Republicans in Congress trying to show that whatever corruption Hunter Biden might have engaged in was corruption in which the president, Joe Biden, was involved. So he's trying to sort of, I think, cover the entire period that was of concern to the Republicans.
As our White House correspondent Owen Jensen mentioned, this is not the first time a president has pardoned a family member. Both Presidents Clinton and Trump have done the same. How does this pardon compare?
Well, it's certainly got all the same problems that those other pardons had, which is presidents using the pardon power to help their close family members or political allies. That's not what the pardon power was designed to do in any of those cases. The pardon power was designed for a president to use to address a miscarriage of justice that was committed by prosecutors over which he perhaps had no control. But this is not that. This is, I think, an abuse of power, just like it was with Clinton, just like it was with Trump. An abuse of power that benefits the president personally. That's not what presidents are given this special power to do.
We only have about 30 seconds left, Professor, but do you see this as a green light for Trump to pardon whom he will? And who do you foresee him pardoning?
Well, I think Trump would have felt that green light anyway. It just may be greener now after what President Biden has done. I think President Trump has said and may likely pardon all those people that got convicted for ravaging the Congress of the United States on January 6th. And there may be other business associates or other people that are close to Trump that may be thought to have been in concert with or conspiracy with him with respect to certain alleged crimes. He may pardon all those people. I think President Trump is going to feel emboldened to pardon basically anybody he thinks is a friend or ally of his that got into trouble.
Professor Michael Gerhard, thank you so much.
Thank you.
A sad update this evening as we learn that an American-Israeli man thought to still be held hostage by Hamas was actually killed on the October 7th attack in Israel. Omer Maxim Nutra was a member of the Israeli Defense Force at the time of the attack. The IDF confirmed the news of his death today based on intelligence it had received. They say Nutra's body is still being held in Gaza. President Biden, in response, released a statement saying in part, "Our hearts are heavy today during this dark hour as our nation joins Omer's parents, brother, and family in grieving this tragic loss. We pray to find strength and resilience. And to all the families of those still held hostage, we see you, we are with you, and I will not stop working to bring your loved one back home where they belong." Moving on to Syria, where the 13-year civil war has reignited after rebel forces captured Aleppo, the country's second largest city. In the surprise offensive, insurgents launched a two-pronged attack on Aleppo and moved into the surrounding countryside. In response, the Syrian military and foreign allies have launched airstrikes and rushed reinforcements. This was the first opposition attack on Aleppo since 2016. To join us on this, we turn now to Alberto Fernandez, a contributor for EWTN News and a former U.S. diplomat. Ambassador Fernandez, thank you so much for speaking with us. As we analyze now this surprise attack by rebels in Syria, tell us more about the timing. Why now, and why is Aleppo so important?
Well, thank you for having me. It seems like the rebels have been planning this for a while. In fact, some reports say that they've been planning it for a few years. They developed new tactics, new weapons, new strategies, and they took the opportunity to launch it, I think probably thinking that the Assad regime and its allies in the region were distracted from the war in Israel, where several of these allies of Assad were deeply involved in the war.
The last serving U.S. ambassador to Syria, Robert Ford, he pointed to months of Israeli strikes in the region, as well as the recent ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, which was agreed to last week, as possible reasons for the rebels' attack. What do you make of that?
Well, as I said, it's clear that this is not something that you just prepare from one month to another. They've been planning this for a long time. They've been planning to kind of get back at the regime, which has been hammering them. We in the West think that the war has gotten quiet, but the Syrian civil war has continued. People continue to die all the time. So this is something that has been been in the works for a few years, but obviously they watched the news and they figured this is a perfect time to take advantage of regional events.
And Ambassador, tell us specifically about the concerns for the faithful in the region. What does this latest offensive mean for the Christian population in Syria?
Well, Aleppo is a historic center of Eastern Christianity. It's a wonderful community of Armenian Catholics, Greek Orthodox, Maronites, Chaldeans, Syrian Church of the East. You have the whole panoply of the Eastern Church there. You even have a Latin parish in Aleppo. So it's a historic community, a community which is much depleted these days. I'd say about 80 to 90% of it has left. So the number of Christians in Aleppo is much smaller than it was before the war, but there's still tens of thousands, maybe 20, maybe 30,000 Christians in Aleppo. They're under Islamist rule now. They don't know what to expect. Obviously, things could be better than they fear, or they could be worse than they hoped. We're in very early days. The rebels have said all the right things so far, but it's very early.
Well, as always, we are grateful for your expertise and insight. Alberto Fernandez, thank you so much.
Thank you.
More than 200 people have been detained following several nights of protests in the capital of the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. As you can see from the footage, police shot water cannons and tear gas at the protesters, who responded by throwing fiery objects. This comes after the country's ruling party decided to suspend talks to join the European Union. The United States has sided with the demonstrators, as State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller says the ruling party has made the former Soviet Republic more vulnerable to possible influence from the Kremlin. The EU granted Georgia candidate status last year. President-elect Donald Trump made several cabinet nominations over the Thanksgiving weekend, including members of his own family. Trump wants billionaire businessman Mossad Boulos, his daughter Tiffany's father-in-law, to serve as White House senior advisor on Arab and Middle East affairs. He also picked his son-in-law Jared Kushner's father to serve as ambassador to France. But it's Trump's selection of Kash Patel to serve as FBI director that has sparked the most reaction. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales has more.
Good evening, Catherine. The controversial pick of Kash Patel, a longtime loyalist and former national security aide, fulfills the campaign promise by President-elect Donald Trump to shake up the FBI. Many Republicans say it's a solid pick.
One of the most tragic consequences of 4 years of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is both DOJ and the FBI have been politicized and weaponized, and I think Kash Patel is a very strong nominee to take on the partisan corruption in the FBI.
There are serious problems at the FBI. The American public knows it. They expect to see sweeping change, and Kash Patel is just the type of person to do it.
Patel rose to prominence as a congressional aide, pushing back against the Russia investigation during Trump's first term, then working in senior counterterrorism and intelligence roles before working as chief of staff to Trump's acting Secretary of Defense in 2020. Democrats say Patel is a threat to democracy.
The Department of Justice is going to serve Donald Trump's political interests. That's what Kash Patel has said he thinks the Department of Justice and the FBI should do, and that's why Republicans and Democrats should be examining how damaging this nomination could be to American democracy.
Democrats add all you have to do is listen to Patel's previous statements.
We're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice.
Senator Chris Coons is a member of the Judiciary Committee, which will conduct the confirmation hearing. He posted on X, quote, Patel needs to prove to the Senate Judiciary Committee that he has the right qualifications, and despite his past statements, will put our nation's public safety over a political agenda focused on retribution.
Senator Chuck Grassley, who is poised to become the chair of the Judiciary Committee, says that Patel must prove to Congress that he will reform and restore public trust in the FBI. The confirmation hearings are set to take place in January. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly, including cold as ice. Winter weather leads to tons of snow in parts of the northeastern United States, but it's not over yet. What to expect over the next few days, and learn how the United Kingdom is getting closer to passing a bill allowing assisted suicide for the terminally ill. Welcome back. The Thanksgiving weekend is one of the busiest travel times of the year, and in parts of the United States, traffic was not the only cause for concern. Around 4 million Americans were under winter storm warnings through today. Towns in upstate New York and northwestern Pennsylvania are being blanketed by snow. Numbing cold and heavy snow could persist into next week and cause hazards in the Great Lakes, Plains, and Midwest regions. One woman in Lake County, Ohio, woke up yesterday to 30 inches of snow. Church leaders in the United Kingdom say they are disappointed by the recently advanced bill in favor of assisted suicide. Bishop John Sherrington, the auxiliary bishop of Westminster, says he's praying the measure will be rejected at a later stage. In a statement, the bishop says in part, quote, "We believe that this bill is flawed in principle and also contains particular clauses that are of concern. We ask the Catholic community to pray that members of Parliament will have the wisdom to reject this bill at a later stage in its progress." Members of Parliament voted to advance the measure late last week, and it now heads to the next legislative stage. The last time lawmakers considered assisted suicide in 2015, it was voted down at the second stage and did not progress any further. For analysis, we turn to Heather Tomlinson, a journalist in the United Kingdom. Heather, thank you for joining us. First off, tell us about the vote last week. You've been tracking this story closely. Did it come as a surprise?
It did come as a surprise and a deep disappointment, I think, for many of the people who have been campaigning against the bill. When it was first announced, which was roughly 6 weeks ago, I think that people were quite pessimistic then. They were worried because maybe a perception that the Labour Party might be, more MPs might be in support of it. However, I think over the time there's been such a good campaign. The campaigners really have excelled themselves in pointing out the many problems with this bill specifically, but also about assisted suicide in general. That I think campaigners really had got their hopes up. Many high-profile MPs had come out against the bill. There was really a sense of momentum in the campaign and a real hope that I think that the MPs would have made the right decision. But sadly, as you know, that didn't happen.
Right. So Heather, what comes next exactly? Can you give us a brief timetable?
So the bill will now go to committee. Now, one of the problems that's been raised is that because it's in the UK, it's been an unusual means of getting legislation to the House of Commons. It means there's going to be less scrutiny than there might have been. But there is another vote. So after the committee revise it, there will be another vote. But I don't think that's yet set, or people would know when that is. So I think all the churches are still calling for Christians to pray and to keep engaging with their MPs and to try and persuade and make these really good arguments, just make them heard.
No, absolutely. It does sound like church leaders are being vocal there. Heather, some opponents of the measure are pointing out that UK officials say they are concerned by the lack of palliative care options in England and in Wales. Can you tell us more about this, and is anything being done to address the lack of resources there?
Yeah. In the UK, about 2/3 of palliative care funding is actually from charity. So since the hospice movement began, there's actually a really strong community support. People often, when they've lost a loved one, they will go on a marathon or something to try and give back as part of their grieving process. And there's a lot of charity shops, or I think what in America called thrift shops, to raise funds for our hospices. However, the NHS funds about a third, and in real terms, that's been falling in recent years. Obviously, there's not a lot of money to go around in the government at the moment, but many MPs have commented on wanting to see better funding for palliative care in the UK.
Our prayers are definitely with you in the UK. Heather, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
The English College in Rome begins this month of December, remembering those who gave their lives for the faith during a dark period in the 16th and 17th centuries. EWTN Vatican journalist Benedict Cedergren has more.
During the dark days of the English Reformation in the 16th century, the Venerable English College was founded in Rome to form young English Catholic men discerning the priesthood and to prepare them for the dangers of returning to their homeland to serve the persecuted Catholics.
The situation in England was grave for Catholics. The Protestant Reformation, which we think of now very much as an historical fact, was a live one for them, and particularly for those who would celebrate Mass for priests and for those who would seek to aid them in their mission. It became a question of life and death.
After their ordinations, the courageous young priests returned to England and Wales. They served in secret, facing constant dangers of betrayal, arrest and execution. 44 of the college's students were martyred over the next 100 years, most by being tortured and then hanged, drawn and quartered, the brutal execution method of the day.
Our most important martyr is our first one of our first students, St. Ralph Sherwin. He was from the north of England. He was a very much establishment figure in England. He studied for the priesthood, lived here for 3 years, and then he went back on the first mission that was sent from the seminary with a group of companions to try and share the Catholic faith back in England and Wales. And he was one of our first martyrs.
According to tradition, students would gather around the martyr's picture in the chapel to sing the Te Deum whenever news reached Rome of the martyrdom of a former student. This custom continues today on Martyrs' Day, when the relics of the martyrs preserved beneath the altar are venerated by the students.
We have morning prayer and then a solemn Mass, and throughout that whole period we have the relics of the martyrs displayed before the altar so that people can reverence them. And then in the evening, after evening prayer, we have a public service of veneration, during which the Gospel is read, but also an account of the martyrdom of one of the college martyrs. So that's really a highlight, because it sets before us the reality of their sacrifice.
Catholics today also have to face many challenges, even persecution, and seminarians returning home often have to navigate the shifting modern cultural realities and anti-Christian hostility that can be anything but welcoming. At the Venerable English College in Rome, the future priests continue to draw inspiration from the courage of the English martyrs, whose legacy drives them to share the gospel no matter the obstacles.
I think our seminarians are very inspired by the history here, but it's so relevant to today as well, because today we need missionary priests. We need priests whose hearts are full of love, but also full of zeal and aware of the difficulties. The cultures are not always welcoming to the gospel and to the Christian message.
In Rome, Benedict Cedergren, EWTN News Nightly.
If you would like to learn more about Martyrs' Day at the Venerable English College, tune into Vaticano this Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern right here on EWTN. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, in the wake of the attacks in Syria, the Holy Father addresses the faithful, where he reminds us to turn our gaze towards heaven in these hard times. Plus, we are getting our first look inside the newly renovated Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. See how it looks inside next. Pope Francis reminds the faithful, even in dark and difficult times, we always have an outlet for hope.
E che attendano con vigilanza la venuta del Figlio dell'uomo.
During his Sunday address at the Vatican, the Holy Father says concerns about the world around us and even catastrophic events are not new, and we can navigate the anxiety by keeping our hearts light and awake and by trusting in God, who has worked salvation even in the most dramatic times in history. French President Emmanuel Macron recently visited the Notre Dame Cathedral for the first time after its restoration following the devastating fire in 2019. The 2-hour tour was televised live, giving an opportunity for viewers to take a first look at the renovated stonework and vibrant colors just before the official reopening this coming weekend. We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Catherine Hadro. Good night, and God bless.